We're going to start our day with this familiar song, "This is the Day." Actually, this is a psalm from the Old Testament, and it was a spiritual practice to say this every day, regardless of what was going on in the world or in our interpersonal lives or in our minds and hearts. This is the day. You want to stand and this is the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. Oh, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made.
Let's begin with a prayer. Take a breath and let go of all outer concerns. Bring all of your attention into your heart. We open our hearts and our minds to receive the gifts of this day. Our wonderful speaker, the music, our sense of community with each other, all of this for which we are so grateful. We are part of a worldwide movement to expand consciousness, and each one of us plays an important part. So whether you are here for the first time or have been coming for decades, this is the day the Lord has made, and we are rejoicing and being glad in it. Thank you, Spirit. We light the Christ candle as a reminder that within each one of us, there's always a light of love, of wisdom, of great understanding. And it is this self that guides us. And also a young, youthful, joyful spirit, which Danica represents as beautifully as anyone I've ever known. So we're going to honor Danica with this prayer of affirmation together. Danica, you are a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. You are loved unconditionally, just the way you are. And we're going to say this prayer for ourselves as well. And if you're new to Unity, you might think, well, I'm not perfect. But we're not viewing ourselves from the small self, but from that expanded, wiser, larger self who knows, who speaks to us as a loving elder, one who is wise, knowing that our lessons are perfect in bringing us home. So together, I am a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. I am loved unconditionally, just the way I am. Thank you, Danica.
Now we're going to sing this song as our children go off to their Sunday classes.
I'm going to stay at the
I'm a
podium now.
beautiful child of God, a wondrous spirit of love and peace. My light will shine forever. I'm a beautiful child of God. You're a beautiful child of God, a wondrous spirit of love and peace. Your light will shine forever. You're a beautiful child of God, and we are beautiful children of God. We are wondrous spirits of love and peace. Our light will shine forever. We are beautiful children of God. Here they go.
Am I on? First thing I'd like to do, can you hear me? Okay, good, is introduce our wonderful guest speaker and musician, Dr. Will Tuttle. I've been listening to you. You've been a guest speaker and performer here for decades. So every time it is different in its illumination and openness. And so today our hearts and minds are going to be opened in beautiful ways. Listen to his biography. It's impressive. And I feel like I'm bragging a bit because he's here with us today. He's a composer, a pianist, an educator, and he wrote a best-selling book which is available in the Great Hall after the service called The World Peace Diet, and it's been published in 18 languages. He is devoted to providing uplifting and healing original music and to helping people awaken their own inner wisdom and genius. He has a PhD in education from the University of California at Berkeley, focusing on the role of intuition in education. He's taught college courses in philosophy and humanities and psychology, mythology, creativity, and comparative religion. He is a former Zen monk and Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition. And I'm not done. He is currently conducting a music, art, and education ministry with his beautiful wife, Madeline, who is a visionary artist from Switzerland. Some of her work is on display here, and it is so beautiful it took my breath away. Madeline specializes in painting that celebrates the beauty of animals and flowers, and she's also a flautist and a Waldorf teacher. And her works and many CDs and books by Will, Dr. Tuttle, are available in the Great Hall after the service. So he's been active in lectures, concerts, and workshops throughout North America and worldwide. And he's got inspiring gift cards, prints, books, CDs available after the service. And then he's doing a workshop after our service on how to expand our own intuitive powers. And he'll say more about that later in the service. So we welcome you back. So grateful to have you here. And now for our community highlights. Oh, our prayer chaplain Cheryl Potts. And Cheryl, I am so grateful to you for your beautiful, beautiful prayers. Cheryl is available after the service to pray with you for any challenge that you have or any gratitude you'd like to express for something wonderful that is happening in your life. So simply come up here after the service. Cheryl will take you aside and in a completely confidential way pray with you. And if you're new to unity prayer, It's a blessing just to learn how to frame prayer in a positive, open way. It's not traditional, but it's so beautiful and it works, and that energy will stay with you for a long while. So thank you, Cheryl, for serving in this way. Now we'll do our community highlights. As I mentioned, the workshop will begin at 12 noon. You have time to get some refreshments and come on back. And I know it's going to be an extraordinary experience. I hope that many of you will be able to enjoy that. It's a rare opportunity. Opening the intuitive gate. And there will be a love offering after that. The next announcement is that our fall reflection program begins on the 17th, and we're using the book Have a Little Faith by the same author who wrote Tuesdays with Maury, which was a wonderful book. So you can sign up now in the Great Hall. There's still time to join on Zoom or in person, and books are available in the bookstore, or you can get yourselves a book quickly online. A reminder that September 17th is Friendship Sunday. You're invited to bring a friend or a family member, a neighbor, to Unity, because Unity has been described as the best kept secret. So we like to expose people to a new way. It's really an old way, an ancient way, but it's new to most people these days, of positive thinking, of affirmative prayer, of opening our hearts and minds and knowing that divinity is within each person. Our next announcement is that Unity Worldwide Ministries is hosting a World Day of Prayer. And if you've never attended that, I really encourage you. It amazes me the power you feel, even if you just come to the vigil afterwards. There's a meeting here. Our prayer chaplains are hosting a prayer vigil on Thursday, 9/14, from 4 to 5. That's different from what was announced last week, in our sanctuary. And they will present the closing concert of World Day of Prayer that is occurring at Unity Village, featuring Karen Drucker and Reverend Michael Gott. So you can come from 4 to 5 in our sanctuary. You can register for this event on the website. That's up there. And if you can't catch that, you can come see me after the service. I have it printed out right here, and I can just show it to you. Okay. Now, our statement of faith. I've practically worn this out this last week. No, never. No matter what is happening in our world, we see everything, all experience, all thoughts, all awarenesses through the eyes of spirit, with self-compassion and wisdom, knowing that each challenge that comes to us is a teacher, not a punishment. So let's make our statement of faith together now. There is only one person and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and start with our time of meditation. So please get comfortable for that. I'll be doing this at the piano. future. Entering more deeply into this moment. The only holy moment is right now. And we give thanks for this beautiful day, for this precious opportunity to be together here in this sanctuary that is made sacred by the yearning to awaken to the truth that we are, to the infinite love that is the source of our life and the source of all life. We give thanks to for this outer sanctuary, which is a manifestation of the inner sanctuary, where we dwell always in unity. With the infinite love. That is the infinite creative power. Knowing that what we are was never born and will never die. So we give thanks for everyone who helps make this outer sanctuary possible, for this whole community, and for the teachings that help to awaken our mind and heart to the truth of the infinite interconnectedness of all life. We give thanks for all the teachers in our life, and we give thanks for this beautiful earth, for all of the forests and rivers and mountains, streams and lakes and oceans, the jungles and prairies and all of the birds in the air and the marine animals in the water, and the infinite celebration of life here, the beauty and diversity. We give thanks for the whole human family on our journey of awakening to the truth that we are. And we give thanks knowing that the light that shines at the very heart of the universe is shining right now in our heart, is shining in every cell of our being, in every dimension of our life and affairs, bringing every aspect of our life into harmony and into alignment with the purpose that we are here to fulfill. And so we take a moment now and connect more deeply, allowing the music to open an inner doorway, to connect more deeply with the reason we are here on this earth. Our true nature. abiding in our true home, abiding in peace and harmony, abiding in radiant health and freedom, abiding in the truth. Abiding in the infinite life, in love, in joy, in creativity, in unity. May all beings be happy and free and at peace. And may we continue together through the inner and the outer work to build a more enlightened society, a world that cares for everyone, for all expressions of life, a world that reflects the truth of the inner Christ presence. And we give thanks, knowing this is so, and so it is. I'd like to thank all of you for joining together in our time of meditation. And go ahead and play a piece of original piano music now. This is called Benediction of Light. So just feel free as you're listening to let the music take you on an inner journey. And I'd like to just dedicate this music to the healing of all of our relations and to expanding the love and awareness that is already here in this beautiful sanctuary and radiate it out into our world for the benefit of all beings. So this is Benediction of Light. Enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much. And it's really fantastic to be back here again. Madeline and I think Marcy said it was 2011 was the last time we were here, so it's been too long, I think. But we've been very honored and blessed to be able to travel to Unity churches now for, gosh, I think it's been close to 40 years, spreading the message and being part of the Unity movement. And I always like to, in the beginning, kind of remember that right now as we're meeting, there are many other sanctuaries and congregations meeting all over the United States and really worldwide. And so we're part of a much larger movement that I think in many ways is one of the healthiest movements in the sense that it's really based on the idea of inclusion, that we include everyone is welcome here, but also we include the wisdom of the world's religious traditions. Christianity, but also the other traditions have so much to contribute as well. And it's a part of our human heritage. And I think the co-founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, had so much wisdom that they were open to really getting the best and the deepest teachings that we can actually put into practice in our own lives. So yeah, it's been a long time since we've been here. We actually spent a lot of time in Florida, and so when we used to go to Fort Myers, we were like best friends with Ken Murdoch, and we had an RV. We lived in an RV for 18 years, full time, just traveling to Unity churches. So we've been to Unity churches in every single state, except for North Dakota. There isn't one, but when they get one, we'll be there. And many other countries, Europe and Caribbean and Australia and New Zealand, all over the place. And but it was interesting because I just heard that this piano was donated by David, and so it's really Ken Murdoch, his partner. So it's really wonderful to see the energy keep going around and keep. I think our job is to understand this, but also to increase it in our own way to help boost the energy of love and awareness in our lives because. We're born on this earth, and we're really just here for a few short decades. So what do we do while we're here? Are we just part of the problem, or do we become part of the solution? And how do we do that? How do we actually evolve spiritually to the point where we can awaken our inner capacities, our inner genius? So, Charles and Myrtle, but Charles especially, wrote a lot of books. And if you read his books, one of the things he emphasizes quite a bit, and he's pretty well known for that, is that we should all go straight to headquarters, right? Each one of us should make an effort and develop the capacity to connect with our own awareness. So he talked about that quite a bit. And of course, I always say for him, that was pretty easy to go straight to headquarters. What that meant for him was, I'll just ask Myrtle, see what she thinks. But for the rest of us, we've got to, and I can just ask Madeline, so that's pretty good too. Go straight to headquarters. But really, the idea is that we can awaken and cultivate our inner intuitive knowing. And that this is not only a great gift for ourselves and our loved ones, but for the whole world when we do that. In my book, The World Peace Diet, I talk about that we face in our society an intuitive imperative, that it's really imperative for us as a society to connect with our inner guidance system. Because if we don't, what's guiding us? If we're not guided by our intuition, what are we guided by, right? I mean, we get up in the morning, so what do? Why do we do what we're doing? We're all doing something. So what is it that's propelling us in our activities? If it isn't our inner guidance system, it's the cultural program, right? As soon as we're born, we are completely bombarded with all kinds of influences, right? Our parents, our teachers, the minister of our church, whoever, not the Unity, but the other ministers, the ads on TV, all these things. And so as little kids, we're sponges. We just soak it up, right? Their language becomes my language. Their values become my values. Their food becomes my food. Their attitudes and way of thinking becomes my attitude and way of thinking. And so we grow up and we're just basically programmed to live our life according to the values that we've inculcated. But the problem is, like Krishnamurti said it, and I think very kind of strongly, he said, it's not a good idea to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society, right? So the whole idea is We need to connect with the wisdom traditions, because I think it's pretty obvious. we don't want to keep going in the direction we're going in terms of war and domination and exploitation, environmental pollution, all these things. It's time for us to connect with a deeper wisdom so we can live in harmony with each other, in harmony with our true nature and with the earth. And that means a spiritual life, not just some kind of spiritual life that's based on believing something we're told we have to believe, but actively connecting with our inner guidance system, which is based on the basic truth that what we are is not this body. We have to really understand that. As soon as we're born here, that's one of the main things we're told all the time is, you're this, right? This thing, this object that was born and will die. And we have a name, right? We have a name and we have a body. And in Sanskrit, that's called nama rupa. That's the source of slavery. As long as you think that you're this name and this form, in Sanskrit, that's called samsara. Samsara is basically the wheel of suffering that never ends. It doesn't end. As long as we're under the delusion of being a fundamentally separate self, then I have to compete with you to get what I want, and I have to manipulate other people. And we're always in a struggle. If everybody's under that illusion of being separate, born and will die, and there's only enough to go around, we have to compete and get what we can, that's suffering that never ends, because it's based on an illusion. And so, like in my main studies when I was younger, for like 20 or 30 years, was Buddhism, and as you heard, I was a monk in Korea. And it's so interesting, one of the original symbols, actually, of the Buddhist teaching was a footprint. And it wasn't until like after 500 years in Buddhism, or a few hundred years, it came into Europe, into Greece, and they said, well, you should have a statue of that guy, So they started this idea of having a statue. But they never did that in the beginning. It was just a footprint. Why? What is it about a footprint? If you go to the beach, right, and you're walking along and you see a footprint in the sand, you don't walk up to the footprint and go, well, good morning, George, how are you doing today? You know that's just a footprint. That's not the being that made the footprint. So right now, this is a footprint waving at you. What you see, we see footprints, right? We can't never see the being that we are. We are infinite and eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die. You can't die. You never were born. We're the light. We're functioning through a physical body. But if we don't engage in a meditation practice where we learn to quiet our mind and connect with the true being, it's not just the thoughts, then unfortunately we're propelled by our programming. My old Zen teacher said that our mind is like a popcorn popping machine that we don't know how to turn it off. You're trying to find the off switch. It's like always making these thoughts, right? And thoughts and feelings and what I should have done and what I wish I would have done. I wish they wouldn't have done, but if they did it, next time I'm going to do it that way. We're being propelled continually by our thinking, by the program. So the whole idea is, how many of you just have some kind of a meditation practice on a daily basis? Few of you do. Good. I really think it's important, because if we don't take time to honor the being that we are with silence, just listening internally and opening to the source of our life, then we're getting propelled. As soon as we go out the door here, it happens. We're getting propelled by all of our conditioning and bombarded by everything else. And we're all going to the same place. We're all going to get to that moment where we're going to leave this body, right? That's one thing that's guaranteed. In the Zen tradition, they say, getting born is like stepping out onto a boat, onto a journey, and you know for sure that that boat is going to sink. But that's not bad. Transiency is the source of beauty, right? We don't think plastic flowers are that beautiful because they're not transient. Sunsets, rainbows, flowers, children, each other, we're beautiful because it's transitory. Savor it. Savor every moment. Savor every moment of our precious lives. We go through our lives without savoring because we're not awake. We don't really see the beauty. If we're being propelled by the program, It's a program pretty much of separation. So the whole idea, I think, really is to understand that we have this inner capacity to live our own unique life. And how do we connect with that? That's the thing. And I think the underlying idea in unity, really, and all the world religious traditions is that if we quiet our mind and we're in this present moment, there's a bubbling spring of joy that's always there, and it doesn't need a reason. There's no reason to be happy. We're happy because that's our true nature. And if we're living our own unique life, if we're being guided by our intuition, then we're living that life very often. Like Madeline, when she does her paintings, we see these beautiful paintings up here of nature, of animals, and we see, to me, it's like the colors are so vibrant, but they're representing living beings who are in harmony with nature, in harmony with how they're expressing. And we can be the same way. You know, the problem, it's not our fault. We're born into a society where we're taught that we're separate from nature, we're superior to nature, we're superior to animals, we can dominate and exploit them and do that to each other. That's just driven. So the whole idea is for us to create a world for our children that's really based on love and compassion and caring and mercy and tenderness and gentleness and freedom and so forth. It's up to us to actually do it. How do we do that? That's what Jesus was trying to teach us, and the Buddha and these great people. I remember, for example, in my own life, when I was a kid, I grew up in Concord, Massachusetts. And that was kind of a neat place to grow up because, well, have you heard about the American Revolution? It started in Concord. So I remember every April 19th. April 19th is Patriots' Day. And so my father, a lot of the men, he would get dressed up in his Minuteman outfit and get the gun off the wall, and we'd all march down to the Old North Bridge in Concord. We'd walk down there, and we would reenact the battle, and we'd have other men that were dressed up in red coats like they were the British, and we'd shoot at them, and they'd shoot at us, but then we'd chase them back to Boston. We reenacted the Revolution. You remember the poem by Emerson, in 1775, hardly a man is now alive who remembers the famous day and year of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. So the whole idea is we should have a revolution if we're living a life of slavery. And that interest, that basic idea and that basic wisdom, I think came back again in Concord, amazingly enough, about 80 years later in the mid-1800s. There was another revolution called the Transcendentalist Revolution. So I was born in Emerson Hospital. I learned to swim in Walden Pond. I went to Thoreau School and Alcott School. And these were the Transcendentalists, and they were the first ones to really bring the teachings from Asia into North America. And some of these very helpful teachings, like from the Taoist tradition, the teaching of God as infinite principle. You learn to live in alignment with the principles that are universal. If you don't live in harmony with gravity, you're going to fall down. If you don't live in harmony with the law of cause and effect, as you sow, so shall you reap. That's a basic law. You want to have a life of joy and freedom, then plant seeds of joy and love and freedom for others. Whatever we do to others, the golden rule, right? That's the universal divine principle. Or the idea from the Buddhist tradition of God as infinite mind, awareness. Or the idea from the Hindu tradition of God as equally female as male, right? This whole liberation from that type of thinking that's only male. All of these things came in during the 1800s, and so these people had Thoreau had the largest library of books from Asia in the whole United States back then. And so I think, in my own life, I wasn't aware of that. I was raised in an Episcopalian church, but I remember I was interested. And when I got away to college, I started reading Thoreau and Emerson, and it was really interesting because that led me to the Bhagavad Gita and to Zen and to all these other things, yoga. So way back in the early 1970s in Maine. I was at Colby College in Maine. But I remember that led me to another book called Cosmic Consciousness. Have you ever read that book? It's by Richard Buck. He wrote it back in the 1890s. Very interesting book. He said, basically, that everyone that we see is at the level of self-consciousness. That means we care about ourselves, or maybe the people close to us, this kind of tribal, self-centered kind of thing. That's where we're at. But he said certain rare human beings, people like Jesus and the Buddha, other great sages and saints and mystics and poets, both men and women, over the centuries had attained what he called cosmic consciousness, which is basically a qualitative step above self-consciousness, where instead of only being concerned about myself and my own welfare, I actually care about other people too. and so there's this moral elevation. He referred to it as an intellectual illumination, a spiritual awareness, and they could actually, in many cases, help heal others. They saw the best in others, and they gave the great teachings, and they founded the great religions. But the key thing that he said was, it is the destiny of every human being to attain cosmic consciousness. That's the reason we're here. We're not supposed to just like worship them. We're called to attain cosmic consciousness ourselves. So I remember going home at the breaks to my parents in Concord and saying, Dad, Mom, we're here to attain cosmic consciousness. We're not just here to make a bunch of money and do this and get all distracted by all that stuff. We're here to attain a higher level. And my father said, I'm paying a lot of money for that education, and I'm not sure how that's going to help you get ahead in the world. But he was also, he owned a whole chain. He owned newspapers, and he taught me to play the piano. and my mother was an artist, so they kind of tuned into it. But what was really interesting was my younger brother Ed. When I told him about it, he said, "Yeah, that's right. What are we doing? We should attain cosmic consciousness." So I graduated from Colby in 1975, and we decided we're going to attain cosmic consciousness. But what do? That was the question. So we thought about it quite a bit, and then it hit us like a lightning bolt. If you want to attain cosmic consciousness, you go to California. So that's what we did. I remember telling my parents, and we're going to California. He said, "How are you going to get there?" "We're going to walk." We decided to walk to California. So I remember we had these little backpacks with a few, one pair of spare pants or whatever, a little tiny thing. And we walked down the driveway. I had some fresh baked cookies from my mother, and we headed out. And we walked and walked and walked. After we had no money either. This was really the thing. We had no money. We were just doing it like the yogis in India, just doing a pilgrimage, walking in faith, and just meditating and going to attain cosmic consciousness. And after about a month and a half, we had reached Buffalo. And it was freezing. It was October. And I thought, what the heck? I mean, I have a bachelor's degree from a very good school. It's October, it's Buffalo, head south. So we walked about 20 miles a day through the little tiny roads, all the way down through upstate New York into Pennsylvania, across Pennsylvania into West Virginia. Then we got into the Bible Belt. I didn't know what that meant, but I found out. That means they try to save you every night. And we kept going down through West Virginia, through Appalachia. I mean, it was amazing. We stayed in houses with people who didn't even have floors. It was just dirt, but the little bit of food they had, they shared it with us. We were inspiring them because we were walking in faith, and they thought we were angels, really. They thought we were like saints, because we didn't have any money, and we were just on a spiritual path, and we would go and talk to their churches and talk to the kids in the Sunday school. We said, just seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else shall be added unto you. It's true. That's the way, And we found it was true. We didn't have any money. We never went hungry the whole time. By some miracle, every day. I remember one day we were walking. We really hadn't eaten for like a day and a half. And we walked along, and there was 2 sandwiches wrapped up by the side of the road, just sitting there. And oh, there it is. We weren't even surprised. It's like, if you really go for the highest, for awakening, then you'll be supported by a benevolent universe. That's what we're here for. We're not here to fight with each other for nothing. But anyway, we kept walking down through into Kentucky, into Tennessee. We ended up eventually for quite a while, for about a month, at the farm. The farm in 1975 was the largest hippie commune in the world. Just south, it was in the countryside out south of Nashville. About 900 people, and they were all from California. They all come out from San Francisco. We were on our way to San Francisco, but they met us in the middle. So. And they were all vegetarians, so that taught it. I've never eaten meat in my life since I was at the farm in Tennessee, and they kind of taught me about, compassion for animals and hungry people. And then we kept walking, and we ended up in Alabama at a Zen center. Actually, you probably think I'm lying, but there was a Zen center in Alabama. And then eventually I got out to San Francisco a few years later. I was living in a Tibetan Buddhist center, then a Zen center, and then I ended up going to Korea, living as a monk in Korea. Came back and got my PhD at Berkeley. I was teaching college, and I had discovered unity actually in Atlanta right after being in Alabama. And I found unity is like this amazing jewel. It's like ancient wisdom teachings, very profound, accessible to everybody. I mean, it's incredible. It's like so beautiful. The Fillmores really understood it and lived it, and they created an educational and spiritual vessel that's really up to us to keep it going, because it's so important that we understand the power of transforming our consciousness. If we don't transform our consciousness, if we just are part of the cultural program, we don't have a future for our children, because it's based on a delusion of separateness. So it's time for us, really, I think, each one of us. That's why I'm so grateful to be here, because I know if you found your way through the door, you're on that path. You're attracted to that wisdom and attracted to the practice, because unity is the church of practical Christianity, right? We're not just talking about it, we're living it as best we can every day. And so I just want to close with that idea that I remember on that walk, as I was walking with my brother, I had no reason to have any happiness at all, right? I mean, we had no money, no security. We were not doing what we were supposed to do. But I remember on these little back roads somewhere in Kentucky, these waves of joy just overcoming me, because I was living my life. That's the thing. If each one of us, when we're living our life, it doesn't matter if everybody else thinks it's ridiculous, but if we're living our life, that joy will start bubbling forth. And that's the greatest gift we can give to others. Because instead of trying to change other people, we can't change them. Change ourselves. When we change ourselves and live our life and connect with our intuition, our inner wisdom, and our inner guidance system, then we create a field around us of freedom that encourages others to do the same thing. And that's really what unity is about. It's about creating a field of higher consciousness, of freedom. And we can only connect with it when we do the inner work and then come together and support each other through the classes and all the activities. And together, that creates the vehicle to bring these teachings to the next generation, because it's vital that we do that, to bring it to our children and to live it ourselves and let everyone understand this. So I just want to close with that idea. Thank all of you for the efforts that you're making to understand the teachings, to live the teachings, to connect with the sacred feminine dimension. We'll talk about that at the workshop this afternoon, but because no effort you ever make is ever lost. It all helps contribute to the upliftment of the consciousness of humanity, which is so important at this time. So I want to especially thank Madeline for this loving spot. We just had our 30th anniversary. She came over. I was living in a Volkswagen bus. I've been teaching, and I moved into. I decided to go into a Volkswagen bus and just travel to Unity churches. Actually, this is in 1990, and I went over to Russia to try to bring peace between the United States and it was the Soviet Union back then, and Armenia and Ukraine. I was in Ukraine doing concerts for peace back in 1992, and I met Madeline in Switzerland. I was playing the piano, and she heard me play, and she had heard some music that she could never find. She had her own music store even. And then she heard me play, and she said, "That's the music I heard since I was 5 years old. I can't believe it." And so she ended up coming over. I was living in a Volkswagen bus. I said, "Well, I haven't." She said, I need it, but I needed an artist to do the cover of my first CD. So I put it out on my mailing. I sent her a copy. She said, "I'm an artist. I can make your CD." And I said, "But you don't even live here. You live in Switzerland." "Well, I can come over." I said, "I'm living in a Volkswagen bus, so where am I going to put you?" "Oh, I've lived in grass shacks in Borneo and longhouses in Kenya, and I traveled around in a van all over Australia. I won't be any trouble." So she moved in my Volkswagen bus. And we ended up finding a little house in Healdsburg, way out on a dirt road, and we got a grand piano, and we made we made babies, which were CDs. I played the piano and she did the art, and I say the smartest thing I ever did was marrying this wonderful person. So follow your intuition and everything opens up, really. It's a life of amazing possibilities. Thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attention. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. That was so inspiring and spot on. And thank you so much. Let's keep this going. And we're going to collect our tithes and offerings now. A form of affirmation that this is who we are, this is what we believe, this is the work we're doing. No matter how challenging it gets, we're just going to keep at it, aren't we? So let's have the ushers come forward. There are several ways to donate. If you're watching online, you can press the donate button. Of course, cash is always acceptable. You can set up credit card donations so you don't even have to think about it. But whatever you give helps to support the most important work we can do, I think. Raising consciousness around the world, and it begins right here. So thank you for giving generously, and we'll bless our tithes and offerings with this lovely little prayer together. God's love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am and have, all that I give and receive. I am grateful.
I'll play a short piece of music while the baskets go around. This is called Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy.
I wanted to get up and dance. Yeah, I can see that music playing and all of us just dancing free form. It's beautiful. So I'm going to give a prayer now, thanking for the offerings, and then Dr. Tuttle, is going to say a few words about the workshop, and then we'll do our peace song. So in a spirit of gratitude, let's visualize our gifts and donations, affirming these divine ideas which are so fundamental to who we are. These ideas of divinity, of shared awareness, of a consciousness of God, Creator, Spirit, Divine Feminine, inspiring each of us and helping to guide us into always truer, more authentic ways of showing up in the world. So I'm grateful to unity. I'm grateful to this community. I'm grateful to our beautiful Mother Earth and to all the blessings that we enjoy. Thank you, Spirit, for this beautiful little costume we're wearing called Life on Planet Earth. Amen.
Wow, beautiful, thank you. I just want to say that Madeline and I would love to invite you to join us right after the service at 12 o'clock for our workshop called Opening the Gate of Intuition, the Keys to Developing Your Intuition. And basically, remember what Albert Schweitzer said. He said, the key to happiness is good health and a short memory. And that basic idea of just coming into this moment. And so we'll be teaching you some techniques of meditation along with music and art and imagery to help each one who's attending connect with your own unique way of accessing your intuition. So please join us. We look forward to seeing you then. Much love to you. Thanks again for the great work you're doing. Thanks.
And now we ask that you form a circle and hold hands or not, your choice. I think Will should add something to his biography, and that is that he has 30 fingers, because nobody can play a piano like that. A peace that was meant to be with God our Creator. We are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow to live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let